There's a strange thing that keeps happening to Alex Eala, and it has nothing to do with her forehand. She'll show up to play in Melbourne or Dubai or Miami City she's never lived in, on a tour that's supposed to be one of the loneliest jobs in sports, and somehow the stadium doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a home game that got shipped overseas. Flags come out. Chants start. Broadcasters keep having to explain to confused viewers why half the arena is dressed in the colors of the Philippines. That's not an accident, and it's not a marketing push either. It's the Filipino diaspora finding her millions of people scattered across the planet, and a 21-year-old from Quezon City who somehow became the thing that pulls them all into the same room at the same time. Think about how unusual that actually is in professional tennis. This is a sport built around solitary travel, one player, one small team, moving from city to city week after week, often playing in front of half-empty grandstands in countries where nobody particularly cares who wins. Isolation is practically part of the job description. And yet wherever Eala lands, that isolation just doesn't seem to show up the way it's supposed to. To understand how that happened, you actually have to zoom out first. The Philippines is one of the largest diaspora populations on Earth, an enormous number of Filipinos living and working abroad, from nurses in the Middle East to seafarers and office workers scattered across nearly every continent. For a lot of these communities, home is thousands of miles away and mostly stays that way. So when something Filipino shows up unexpectedly on a massive international stage, not a local restaurant, not a neighbor, but center court at a Grand Slam, people notice. They show up. And they get loud. Alex Eala gave them a reason to. She was born in Quezon City in May of 2005, into a family that already understood competition. Her mother was a national-level swimmer who medaled at the Southeast Asian Games. Her uncle spent years as a high-ranking sports official back home. Her older brother Miko played college tennis in the United States. It was actually her grandfather who first put a racket in her hand, coaching her himself in her earliest years before she ever left the country. And here's the part that matters. The Philippines has never had a real pipeline for producing professional tennis players. It's a basketball nation first, with boxing close behind, and tennis has always had to fight for scraps of attention. So when Eala started winning junior tournaments as a kid, there was no academy waiting, no federation-funded track laid out in front of her. Her family decided to build the path themselves. At 13, she left home for Mallorca, Spain, to train full-time at the academy Rafa Nadal had built in his hometown, a place designed to combine elite coaching with real schooling, working under coach Joan Bosch. That's not a small ask for any family. It meant missed birthdays, video calls instead of dinners, and trusting a program on the other side of the planet to actually deliver on a sport with zero guaranteed payoff. A 13-year-old doesn't make that call alone. Her parents made it, and then lived with the distance that came with it, for years, long before anyone outside junior tennis circles had heard her name. It started paying off in pieces. Junior doubles titles at majors. Then, in 2022, she won the girls' singles title at the U.S. Open Juniors, becoming the first player, man or woman, from the Philippines to ever win a junior Grand Slam singles crown. She was 16. A year later, she graduated from the academy with Iga Swiatek, by then already a multiple major champion, sitting in the crowd as a guest of honor for the ceremony. Neither of them had any idea they'd be facing off on tour within 2 years. But junior tennis and professional tennis are different sports wearing the same outfit. A junior slam gets you headlines for a week. It doesn't get you into main draws or pay for your flights. 2023 and 2024 were grinding years, lower-tier events, small crowds, no cameras, the kind of matches that quietly decide who actually makes it and who doesn't. She picked up a first WTA 1000 main draw win at Madrid in 2024. Still, heading into 2025, she sat outside the world's top 100, mostly unknown beyond hardcore tennis circles. Then came Miami. She got into the 2025 Miami Open on a wild card, ranked 140th in the world, the kind of ranking that usually means a good story first-round exit. Instead, she beat American Katie Volinets, then upset former French Open champion Jelena Ostapenko in 2 tiebreak sets, then knocked out reigning Australian Open champion Madison Keys 6-4, 6-2. That made her the first Filipino player, ever, to beat a Grand Slam champion at tour level. Then she walked out to face Iga Swiatek, her former academy classmate, by now a 5-time major winner and world number 2 in the quarterfinal, and beat her 6-2, 7-5. She reached the semi-final before falling to world number 4 Jessica Pegula in 3 sets. It was the deepest WTA 1000 run by any Filipino player in history, and it nearly doubled her ranking overnight, catapulting her from 140 to roughly 75 in the world. What people remember most, though, isn't the ranking jump. It's what she said into the microphone right after beating Keys, still catching her breath, switching straight into Tagalog to talk to her parents watching from home. Mom, Dad, nakuha kayo, I got it, I did it. 2 words, and clips of that moment traveled through Filipino communities everywhere, in a way box scores never do. That's the moment the diaspora fanbase really ignited, and it never really cooled back down. Her first-round match at the following Australian Open drew a standing room crowd. At the 2026 Dubai Championships, she beat world number 8 Jasmine Paolini in front of a stadium packed with Filipino flags, later saying she thought about how many people back home were watching and praying for her in that moment. Days later, she ran into Coco Gauff in the quarterfinal and lost in straight sets, but Gauff spent her own post-match interview thanking the crowd, joking that she'd started pretending the cheers for Eala were actually for her, and telling the stadium she appreciated Eala for bringing tennis a whole new audience. That's the pattern that kept repeating through 2025 and 2026. Eala loses a match, and somehow still walks away having won the room. She and Gauff even teamed up for doubles at the Italian Open, a pairing fans nicknamed online in ways Gauff publicly begged people to retire, and lost a tight 3-setter to the defending champions, yet the headlines were about how much fun the two of them clearly had together on court. It's worth pausing on why American and international crowds latched onto her so completely instead of treating her like the outsider who kept knocking out their favorites. Part of it is the underdog math. A 140th ranked wild card from a country with no tennis infrastructure taking down 3 Grand Slam champions in a single week sounds made up. But a lot of it is simply how she carries herself afterward. Composed, warm, fluent in English, genuinely likable in interviews in a way that turns casual viewers into repeat viewers. Nerves and stiff answers have derailed plenty of promising young athletes right at the moment cameras start paying attention. Eala never seemed to hit that wall. Meanwhile, the results kept climbing. She became the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam main draw match at the US Open. By early 2026, she'd cracked the world's top 30, the first Filipino man or woman ever to do it. Then came Wimbledon 2026, where she arrived as the tournament's 29th seed, the first Filipino player ever seeded at a major in the sport's history. On July 4th, she walked on a center court and beat Swiatek again, this time in a third-round classic that took nearly 2 hours to decide. 2 days later, in front of a crowd that included Billie Jean King and Roger Federer, she pushed 13th-seeded Jasmine Paolini to 3 sets in the 4th round before finally losing 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. It was the deepest Grand Slam run by any Filipino player in the Open era, and when she left center court, the standing ovation wasn't really about the scoreline anymore. Strip away every specific detail, and what's left is one of the oldest stories in sport, somebody nobody expected anything from, doing something extraordinary anyway. But there's a second layer here that's specific to Eala. For a diaspora this large, scattered this far from home out of simple economic necessity, watching her win isn't just watching tennis. It's watching a piece of home turn up somewhere they didn't expect to find it, in Melbourne, in Dubai, in Florida, on the most famous grass court on earth. And as of the middle of 2026, she's sitting inside the world's top 30 with a Grand Slam 4th round on her resume and 7 career wins over top 10 opponents, still just 21 years old. If the last 18 months are any indication, those stadiums full of Filipino flags aren't going anywhere, and neither, it seems, is she.